bump, bump, all by itself.
That's not the only evidence that something else lives in this house. When Mr. Mask was just a teenager, he had a close encounter with something. Something to this day he can't explain.
The house was locked. I woke up on the porch and a sound like a dead weight or body fell in the attic over my head. I got a pistol and a flashlight, and my father took a shotgun and stood at the foot of the stairs, and I went up into the attic. So he stood guard at the foot, and I went up with a pistol and a flashlight. There was nothing up there. There hadn't been anything up there, but something fell up there.
The house was built in the late 1800s and was a wedding gift for a girl named Lucy Bills, a woman who may still live here.
After Mother was ill and was awake sometimes at night, she kept talking to Lucy, and the nurses would say, "Miss Elizabeth is talking to Lucy. Who is Lucy?" I think maybe Mother may have been talking to Miss Lucy about her house, but, you know, we needed nurses, and I never did. They didn't know who Miss Lucy was, and I didn't say a word. So.
The Masks have learned to live with the stories and the spooky presence of whatever or whoever is still in this house. But they know it isn't Lucy who makes the old chair go bump, bump in the night. Legend has it, it's a man who lived here around the turn of the century and may still live here today.
My father always attributed to the presence to Dave Perrin, Uncle Dave Perrin he was called, who owned this house at one time and lived here at one time.
Someone once took a picture of the wren's nest sometime in the early 1900s. And if you look closely at the front porch, you'll see Uncle Dave Perrin sitting and rocking. And some people think he still sits there today.
I don't know the ghost personally, but I have this, sometimes there's a sensation of a light or a presence. It's pleasant, it's not scary, it's just as if you look around and you think, well, there's something else here with me. I don't see anything, but there's that presence.
So if you ever walk past the wren's nest in Boliver, Tennessee, take a glance at the front porch. You might even want to wave. Who knows? Maybe Uncle Dave will rock for you. For Tennessee Haunted, Jamie Tucker, News Channel 3.
Ooh. The Halloween hauntings are not over. New tonight on News Channel 3 at 6, Tennessee Haunted, one downtown Memphis museum seems to have a very lively part of its history. Some say it has not one but two very active spirits. Hear and see the evidence tonight at 6.
Now to the slightly abnormal. You don't have to march up and down a street.
It seems to have a very lively part of its history.
Some say the Woodruff Fontaine House in Victorian Village has not one but two very active ghosts. News Channel 3 Jamie Tucker tells the story of the ghosts of Molly and Elliot in Tennessee Haunted.
And you'll just feel as if someone's right behind you. And you'll turn around quickly thinking somebody's following you.
I was writing, and I heard kind of eased around. And there was no one there, but it was a sniff.
Strange and eerie things are happening in the Woodruff Fontaine house in downtown Memphis. Things no one can explain, like the cold pockets of air that greet visitors in the Rose Room, an indention on the bed, as if someone is sitting down, that appears and disappears with regularity. One of the ghosts, they believe, belongs to Molly Woodruff, a young woman who lived in the house in the late 1800s. Her baby and her husband died in the Rose Room just 2 months apart. And they say she's still here, mourning. Lynn Heathcott knows it's true.
And I was standing in there just rearranging some things on our shelf and doing a little dusting, and all of a sudden I heard this just crying, just moaning and crying. And I stopped because I thought, no, I didn't hear that. It's really nothing. I just thought I heard it. And all of a sudden, I went to the door of the gift shop, which leads into the hallway, which comes into the main house. And I could hear this wailing, just crying and moaning sound. It was just the worst sound I've ever heard. And it was coming from Molly's room.
Others have heard the crying too, but when they approach the room, the crying stops.
People used to always tell me, wow, you look so Victorian, you look like you belong here. And I always said, I feel like I belong here.
But when museum volunteer ELENA Williams portrayed Molly several years ago, she learned just how jealous Molly can be. ELENA's sister took photographs throughout the house. They all turned out fine. But in every photo of ELENA, something, or maybe someone, blocked her face out of the picture.
And I felt like that was Molly, and I felt that she was letting me know, this is my house, and you don't come in here and act like you belong here.
To this day, people report hearing or even seeing Molly. But she isn't the only ghost in this house.
Elliot is Elliot Fontaine. He was the youngest surviving son of the Fontaine family.
Elliot died of influenza in 1918, but he still lives in the house, playing practical jokes on workers and guests. Karen Ralston says her first encounter with Elliot came while she was working in what used to be his bedroom.
And I had my back to the bookcase, was working on something, I don't know what, and heard this tremendous crash, this loud crash, and the double doors, which had been closed, crashed open very loudly.
He did push one of our directors down the steps. She promises that she was walking straight down the steps from the 3rd floor where he normally is. And all of a sudden she just was flying down the steps for no apparent reason.
Elliot supposedly didn't like one of our guests a number of years ago, and she kept feeling as though she was being pushed. She actually left, didn't finish the tour.
While we were shooting this story, 3 of us had a strange sensation in Molly's room. I felt as though I'd walked through a cool pocket of air. I even asked them if there was an air conditioner vent pointed my way. They said no. And in fact, the heat was on. They explained it was just Molly. Well, you can decide for yourself. The Woodruff Fontaine House is open 5 days a week for tours. But just a word of advice. If you're walking down the stairs in this house, hang on to the handrail, you know, just in case. For Tennessee Haunted, Jamie Tucker, News Channel 3.
Take a friend if you visit the house.